Understanding the problem space. After we had identify as if we want to design a certain product, the first step that usually we are doing is to focus on what would be the solution to propose. So for example, if you will be developing in this augmented reality for your car, you might be tempted to automatically think of what would be the technology that I'll be using and what would be the design the design that can be integrated into my problem. For example, in this case, we can look at the navigation system for a car, an advanced navigation wherein the interface can be integrated into the screen or your dashboard part of the design. An example in this case, we had it's like a guided direction or some information that's supposed to be will appear in your dashboard will now be seen as part of your driving view. However, after evaluating some of these perspective and capturing and getting the opinion of the user, it appears that some users would prefer not to see these guides because or this augmented reality guide or direction to drivers because it seems that this is a disturbance for them and it disturb while they are the driving and the lost focus on what's supposed to be they are doing in driving. And the problem with having with the concern of understanding the problem space is of course to identify parts of what would be the problem really is, not really what we want to do. And this is part of the first diamond or discovery part, wherein we do not think of automatically of the possible solution, but we first emphasizes what would really be the problem in the first place. For instance, in this one, what really is the problem of how driving, why we need to introduce this augmented reality as guide to drivers. And that would result somehow to maybe better designs and understanding of the concerns of the user, not because new technology is available we have to it doesn't require us to automatically derive a design out of the technology. So we have approaches or main approaches to interaction design. We have we have identified or introduced here four approaches. Number one, design philosophies. Number one is user-centered design. Number two is activity-centered design, systems design, and genius design. In the user-centered design, the user knows best and is the guide to the designer. The designer's role is to translate the user's needs and goals into a design solution. So here, the user would be there's an active participation of user, and the designer now is just listening to the input from the user. And unfortunately, not all of our users are very aware of available technologies or possible design, but somehow we can consider how the user perceived the problem, and at the same time, what would be the possible proposed solutions that this user has been introduced to the designer. Second is activity design, a center design, focuses on the behavior surrounding particular tasks rather than looking at the concern or the user itself. We are now looking at a particular task and how the design can support that certain activity. So in the previous example, if you are driving, so you focus on what are the tasks that the user or the driver is actually doing so that you can support somehow the design. And in that idea, it's obvious that maybe the navigation system that is being developed is used to address the activities and the activity of the driver. Third is, but of course, the design, we know that we have to offset some of the functions considering the perspective of the user and maybe some other aspects. Systems design, this is a structured, rigorous, and holistic design approach that focuses on context and is particularly appropriate for complex problems. So systems design normally is employed in developing software and developing complex problems and designing and including the design for that. So this is what normally employed in the software development process, where we follow systems design to simplify and document derive architectural design for a certain problem to simplify it and to understand and resolve individually the aspects into modules rather than while looking at the overhaul or the holistic way. And the lastly is genius design relies largely on the experience and creative flair of a designer. So this is a designer dependent design approach. But the assumption here is that the designer is already knowledgeable on the problem such that the user would not have, we would be less involved. And no, there are also instances that designer is very observant to the user. So it might be that designers already integrated the perspective of the user. Other important aspect on this slide is that expectation management is the process of making sure that the user's expectations of the new product are realistic. So that this is what we joke normally as expectation versus reality, because we imagine how the product will be designed after our interaction with the designer or the developers. But after the product has been designed and after a long time of not looking at the problem or at what we have said or introduced or shared to the designer or the analyst or other people who are involved in the design process, we have some expectation that might not be similar to what have been designed and how they captured our perception of the things and that we want, that will support somehow our task or to the product that we want to develop. The product owner's job is to filter user and customer input to the development cycle and to prioritize requirements or features. That's obvious already. And a second reason for user involvement is ownership. So it's important that once the user has been involved in the design process during in introducing the product to the company, they might be part owner and they are already involved. And the feeling of being involved in the project is sometimes critical to the acceptance of the project also.